Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever looked at a map of Europe and just kind of wondered about Belgium? It's this tiny country, right? But its language situation is, well, it's a real puzzle. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. So, take a look at this. This is Belgium, and it is literally carved up into different language zones. Up north, you've got Flanders, where they speak Dutch. Down south, Wallonia, that's French-speaking. Then there's this little sliver over on the east, that's the German-speaking part. And smack in the middle, that's Brussels, the capital, which is officially bilingual. And this isn't some casual guideline, folks. This is a hard official divide. So the big question is, how on earth did this happen? How does a country smaller than, say, Maryland, get so incredibly complex when it comes to language? Well, it definitely wasn't by accident. The answer is a wild story of revolution, huge power shifts, and a really long, deep struggle for identity. All right, to really get this, we have to jump on our time machine and go way back to the beginning. The year is 1830. Belgium has just won its independence from the Netherlands after a revolution. A brand new nation is born. Now, check this out. The very first Belgian constitution actually guaranteed freedom of language. On paper, this was super progressive for its time. Everyone was free to speak their own tongue. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? Well, the reality was a little different. Yeah, so even with that freedom written into law, French was the language of prestige all across Europe back then. So the new Belgian elite? They basically decided French was the one and only language for anything important. We're talking government, the courts, the army, you name it. So if you were a Dutch speaker, and here's the kicker, that was most of the population, you were pretty much a second-class citizen in your own country. Okay, so you can probably guess that this kind of imbalance couldn't last forever, right? A really powerful reaction started brewing in the Dutch-speaking North. It began with poets and writers, but it grew into a full-blown political force, the Flemish movement. And let me tell you, their fight for recognition was a long, slow grind. It took them nearly 70 years just to get Dutch recognized as an official language in 1898. But the real game changers, the moments that totally reshaped the country, didn't happen until much later in the 20th century. So what was the big turning point? Simple: money and power. See, back in the 19th century, the French-speaking South, Wallonia, was the industrial heartland of Belgium. It was rich with coal and steel. Meanwhile, the North, Flanders, was mostly poor and agricultural. But then, after World War II, the tables just completely flipped. Wallonia's old industries started to decline, while Flanders absolutely boomed, becoming a modern economic powerhouse. And you know what comes with economic might? Yep, political power. And get this. This isn't some new feeling. As early as 1912, a major politician from Wallonia wrote a letter to the king and said, and I quote, "Sire, there are no Belgians." He said there were only Walloons and Flemings. That just shows you, this idea of two separate peoples living in one state has been at the very core of Belgium's identity crisis for more than 100 years. Okay, so fast forward to the 1960s. By this point, the tensions between the language groups were at a total boiling point. The government knew it had to do something drastic, something radical, to try and stop the country from tearing itself apart. And what they did was they literally drew a line on the map. A law passed in 1962 made the language border permanent and official. From that moment on, the rule was simple. The language of the region is the language of everything. If you're in Flanders, public life happens in Dutch. If you're in Wallonia, it's French. This move basically cemented the separation right into the country's DNA. But hold on a second. We've talked about Dutch and French. What about that third official language? Well, this number, around 79,000, that's how many German-speaking citizens Belgium has. So, where did they come from? This one's actually a pretty straightforward piece of history. After World War I, as part of the Treaty of Versailles, Belgium was given a small chunk of territory that used to belong to Germany. The people living there spoke German, and just like that, they became Belgium's third official language community. So you've got this fixed language border, you've got 3 officially recognized communities.
What's the final step? Well, you have to completely rebuild the entire political structure of the country to make it all work.
And this is where things get famously complicated. Today, Belgium is a federal state, but it has this dizzying array of overlapping governments. You've got the main federal government for the whole country. Then you have 3 regions based on territory, Flanders, Wallonia, and Brussels. And you have 3 communities based on language, Flemish, French, and German-speaking. Each of these has its own parliament and its own powers, especially when it comes to things like culture and education. It's a system designed to give every group as much control over their own affairs as possible. So what's the downside of dividing power up that much? Well, this, 584 days. That is the world record for the longest time a country has gone without a government after an election. It happened back in 2010 because the political parties from Flanders and Wallonia just could not agree on how to form a coalition. That's the real-world consequence of this deep, deep divide.
And all of this brings us to the big final question, right? Belgium has always been a country built on compromise. It has literally remade itself over and over again just to hold its different communities together. But today, with separatist movements gaining ground, especially in Flanders, and a growing feeling that they're really just 2 separate nations sharing a zip code, you have to wonder, can it last?
So I really want to know what you think. Is this incredibly complex system a work of genius, a way to maintain unity, or is it just delaying an inevitable split? Let me know your take down in the comments. And hey, if you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for watching.